We're on the phone today with Claude Coleman Jr., the drummer for Ween. Claude, how you doing today?
I'm fine. A little running around. My 2-year-old son in the back, running errands this morning.
Well, first of all, I got to say it's an honor speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm happy to have been asked to speak with everyone. Yeah, no worries.
Well, I know you're involved in a lot of different projects. First, I wanted to ask you about the sound space at Rabbits, the studio. Can you tell the listeners a bit about that?
Sure. Well, when I moved into the area of Asheville about close to 10 years ago, a buddy of mine and I were doing some recording, and we were rehearsing for the recording, and we were using this sort of bombed-out warehouse in this area outside of town that had no bathroom, and we were on the roof of the building literally peeing into spackle buckets and pondering why there was no rehearsal facility in Asheville when they're so prevalent in just about every other major metropolitan area in America, especially cities that are densely populated with music and musicians and a lot of arts. As Asheville is, it's very much a music town, and could never understand why there wasn't a practice space facility in the city. So my partner and I took it upon ourselves to find a property to create a practice space facility, the first of its kind, as it turns out, in Asheville. And that process went on for several years. The real estate market in Asheville is supercharged, to put it mildly, and a lot of property owners are kind of sitting on gold mines. And since it's a very tourist-centric city, a lot of the properties we initially looked at, we were sort of strung along for a quick ride or two, and they liked the idea. They kind of understood the concept, even though it's sort of a niche area. And the business itself is sort of a niche business. A lot of these property owners would kind of string us along, and they really liked the idea until like the last minute. They would jack up their square foot rates, or they would do some move that would just kind of like eject us out of the talks with them. And so we lost 3 to 4 places like that over the course of 2.5 years or so, and it was really daunting and a little bit frustrating for us. And then we came upon Rabbits Motel, which is this historic black-owned tourist court. It's a restaurant and motel that is in a part of town which used to be historically black-owned businesses lining the boulevards and hotels and ballrooms and drugstores and high schools and so on. It was an area of amazing black-owned prosperity and then businesses. And so when we found this property, we were up against 2 other offers on hand with the owner, and our realtor suggested to me that I write a letter to the owner explaining to her what we were trying to do, that we were trying to create this resource for the arts community. But having had discovered her place, I took it upon myself to kind of really salvage this place and reconnect everyone to a lot of a really amazing history that this motel and this tourist court was a part of. A lot of the big band chitlin circuit acts stayed there. The Negro Baseball League stayed there. A lot of early black sports athletes stayed there by law. And so there was a lot of amazing history tied into this place that I thought, everyone could do with getting reconnected to. And it just sounded like a great idea to kind of just salvage the place, put our rehearsal studios in there, and then recreate another soul food kitchen. And I wrote this all on a letter to the owner, who had 2 cash offers on her desk, and she put us under contract the next day, the following day. Wow. Put us under contract to acquire the property. And that sort of began the journey of building out the spaces. And we opened in December 2020 in the middle of dead zone lockdown period. We opened then and sort of hobbled over the finish line, and slowly but surely the bands have been kind of trickling in, and we're meeting a lot of new acts coming through town as the venues are starting to reopen, and the business overall in the industry is starting to sort of reemerge. And now we're focusing on the Soul Food Kitchen, which will be in the front building, and then there's going to be additional artist studios above the Soul Food Kitchen. We're also going to be doing a large multi-artist murals project across all of the buildings that will be depicting a lot of the history of the area and a lot of the history of that particular business of Rabbit's Motel and the guests there. And so that's, in a nutshell, the project. At its core, it's a music rehearsal facility, but of course it's like super dimensional now, and it's involving history and Black history of Asheville, a lot of history that not many people are aware of or connected to. It's been, raised over and redistricted and removed, and, even the traces of that history are being wiped away and raised over and made into parking lots and so forth. So, me coming into this area, me coming from New Jersey and New York, where, I am used to chocolate cities where over half of the police force is Black and half the city administration are Black officials and left and right, and the family is, I come from a family of prosecutors and judges and police directors, and coming here into an area where you can see such a stark disparity between the cultures and the races and the communities. I wanted to do something about it. So I wasn't going to, just kind of sit idle with not only not having a rehearsal space and a place to practice as a drummer, but I wasn't going to sit idle while another really amazing historic property was going to go forgotten and lost and raised over. So that's about, in a nutshell, the whole of the project.
That's a lot to be taking on a business and a restaurant and, keeping all that history alive. And I know you're involved in a lot of other things as well, musically, outside of Ween even. Is there anything that you're up to these days now, maybe that people should be looking out for?
For sure. My own group, Mandla, I have 3 records of, I'm the singer-songwriter. Actually, I play all the instruments in my record. The last record was in about, I can't even remember, 08 or 09 or so. But I'm working on another record, an EP, and then I'm going to do a box set of the 3 records in a big package, which I'm kind of excited about. We've gotten past the super adolescent, super infant intensive stages where I have a little bit more time. And so getting back into that. And there's a number of other kind of projects people are mailing me in to kind of play on. I can almost not really keep track of. But I play locally in a lot of projects around town, including a live honky tonk karaoke band. It's a live band karaoke thing we do every once in a while. We're playing this week in town on Wednesday in Marshall at a place called the Marshall Jail. That's a lot of fun. And I'm in a bunch of committees throughout the city that are kind of aligned with the work and the business. Between kind of music aspirations and projects and then the business and all of that entails, I have a hard time keeping track of what I'm doing. But those are a few things I'm doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely busy. And of course you're still on the road with Ween. And I wanted to ask you about that. When you first joined up with Gene and Dean, did you think, almost 30 years later, you'd still be playing with those guys?
No, it's a great question. I think, musicians, artists, creatives are kind of doing it for themselves, and they're not really thinking about any sort of long-term ideas or agenda. And, that's both a blessing and a curse, because when you're doing it long-term, you have to figure out how to maintain it long-term and how to, make it solvent and sustainable and make the right choices. But no, when you're doing it back then, it was just an amazing thing to be a part of. You were part of the same era growing up, and we just loved music, and that's all we were doing, was just playing music, writing music, recording, playing gigs. And, you think about, the lunch and dinner, and that's about as far as it goes. And then, before you know it, you're 25 years into a career, and it's a pretty special, amazing, magical thing to be a part of. It's really a unique sort of thing in the world, and I feel super blessed. And the guys I play with are like my musical heroes, which is even more incredible. So it's just been an amazing ride.
Yeah, and I know the band has kind of a relationship with their fans that a lot of bands don't have. And I know it's also the 25th anniversary of the Mollusk album. I want to ask you a bit about your memories working on that one.
Sure. Yeah, that was they did that record at the beach house along Beach Island that they would rent often, and they would just hold themselves up in a house for like 2 weeks, and you'd go down there every couple of days, and it'd have 10 songs, 15 songs, 25 songs, and they would just play song after song after song, and you couldn't decide for yourself which one was better than the last, and all of it was just amazing, and you typically probably really cracking up and like hysterical just from the amazing and awesomeness of what you were hearing, and they're always cracking and cracking themselves up and having a hoot at it. I remember it was a lot of laughter, and the setting was really cool. The house is right on the beach, and I don't know, they just create in a way that's just pure magic, and that's kind of how it was. And you're dropped into it every few days, and you track on a record or track on a new tune, or to write something. And we wrote a couple tunes. I think Put the Coke came out of that time period.
Sure.
Which is funny. But it was just a magical thing to be a part of. It was just magic. That's what it's like, just magic. And that was definitely magic. And you can tell that record had a theme. There was a lot of ocean fair subjects and stuff like that. And it was really fun to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people, I think even including Gene and Dean, to say that that's probably the Ween album they're most proud of. Do you agree with that? Is that the one that you kind of look back on and say that was kind of the best of the best?
Yeah, I don't know. Those kinds of opinions, super subjective. There's so many that were so great that carried all of their own adventures and experiences. It would be really difficult for me to pick my favorite or the best one. The White album, or White Pepper, rather. White Pepper was really memorable for me because that was the only record that the entire band played on every song. And we were up at Bearsville Studios in Woodstock, which is a really, really amazing historic studio, and it's an amazing environment to work in on this farm. So that had a lot of really, really wonderful, memories for me, just waking up and tracking and hanging out and playing basketball and just doing that for a month. I miss doing records like that. So for me, that was sort of my favorite record to make and be a part of. But then, like I said, every single record has so many different experiences from different time periods. The Mollusk was really awesome. And then there's the country record, and there's the Pod, which was really amazing. That's actually kind of, I think, my favorite Ween record, the Pod. As great as the other ones are, that one sort of just typifies, defines like Ween as I always knew it, and how we always knew it growing up. Is just those two guys making music like the Pod, and songs about the stallion.
They've been my favorite band for a long time, but I know, kind of from an outsider's perspective, maybe if they only knew Ween from maybe seeing their videos on Beavis and Butthead or South Park or something like that, they might come off, maybe as a band that shouldn't be taken as seriously. But I mean, the musicianship and the songwriting and all the different genres and, the marathon live shows that you guys pull off. I mean, I don't think a lot of other bands could be doing the stuff that you guys have been doing, for as long as you have.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I sort of speak of when I talk about how special it is. I mean, we'll do 3 or 4 night runs, a different show every night, 33, 35 songs per night, no repeats. And we could probably do that for 2 weeks. We have that much music in our catalog, and we've been playing that much music live as a band, and we've been playing as long as we've been playing for 3 decades. So it's pretty awesome to have that in your wheelhouse. And I think it touches people. I think people connect to it. And I guess that's sort of how we kind of make ourselves distinct in the field, I guess. But it's super, super awesome.
And I know, luckily for us in Minnesota, Ween has a connection, with Minneapolis, and you guys play through here pretty often. But how do you decide otherwise where you're going to play? It kind of seems random. You just kind of see some shows pop up out of the blue.
It does seem random. I think the management really kind of can answer those kind of questions, because I usually just get the itinerary and the ticket and the plane ticket and told where to go. But I think there is some sort of rationale to it, depending on size of market and how we've done there. Which at this point, I think just about every market around is kind of like pretty great. And then there's a few really super standout markets for us and cities for us. But I don't think there's much rhyme or reason to it aside from, have we been there recently? Or I don't know. I don't think much goes into it. It seems random because I think it almost just about is.
Well, it's great you guys are playing, a handful of shows at least every year for the last several years now. And it seems, is that like probably the foreseeable setup for the future here? And maybe as far as the studio goes, Ween is kind of retired from that?
Yeah, it's hard to predict, even as a member of the band, what's going to be happening. I know that there's a lot of pressure for them to kind of get together and write from within. So I feel like that's probably going to run its course and have an impact. And I'm going to make a guess that they're going to be doing some stuff. In the near relative future, they're going to start writing together. I think they're just going to kind of have to. And things have been really great the past few years with regards to everybody's health and everything. So people are in a really good place emotionally, physically, and it'll be a really, really great time for all of us to kind of get back in the studio and kind of kick start those creative juices and everything. But as that plays out, we're definitely going to keep playing. We'll do like the weekend warrior kind of thing, or do like 3-4 shows per month or so. That seems to be a good regular pace for us. It's not too trying. It's not too taxing and impactful on our families and lives and everything. At the same time, we get to do some shows. People get to see some Ween. So I think we're going to kind of keep steady with that sort of approach, probably up until the end of the year. And we'll just see about the new music. I think I do feel like it's coming. It's going to be a slow process, however it comes, but I think it's inevitable. I kind of do.
Awesome. That's great news. And again, I know you're busy. You mentioned at least a dozen things you've got currently in the works. Is there anything else maybe we missed or something else you want to mention?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to be doing a really large fundraiser for Soundspace of Rabbits in September, and it's going to be a streaming event. Maybe I can contact you again, and we can kind of discuss that further in the future or something like that.
Sure.
But let's see, that's kind of the thing I'd love to mention. It's going to involve a band potluck contest with a bunch of musicians around the area here in Asheville. They're going to kind of just band together and compete against each other, writing songs. So I think it's a fun concept. Then I'd say, please have a look out for a new Amanza. That's my music. You can go to my Instagram, Claude Coleman Jr. is the profile. I post there pretty irregularly, once every month or so, but I do post there. I'm going to be creating a profile page for Amanza itself and all of that. So just please have a look out for all that stuff.
Awesome, man. Again, you're an extremely busy guy, but I appreciate you taking some time out with me, and I'm a huge fan, and it's been an honor speaking with you again. Thank you so much.
Oh, hell yeah, man. You're welcome, man. I got mad love for Minneapolis. I've been going to Minneapolis since way before Ween. I meant to talk about this, actually. I was on Twin Tone, and I signed a band called Skunk, and or the Babes, and Soul Asylum, and all those guys. Minneapolis is like a second home to me.
Excellent. Well, anytime you're in the area, just let us know, and we'll help with whatever we can.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.
And again, that was the one and only Claude Coleman Jr., drummer for Ween. And again, you can find out he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's on the road with Ween. And also check him out at the Soundspace at Rabbit Studio in Asheville, North Carolina.